Breaking, Britain's political system just experienced a live meltdown on national television. What happened in that studio could end Keir Starmer's career, fracture the Labour Party, and reshape British politics forever. This is the story everyone's talking about, and you need to hear what really went down. It started as an ordinary political panel. Evening broadcast, seasoned journalists, policy analysts, the usual Westminster insiders discussing Labour's future. Nothing seemed unusual. The cameras were rolling, the conversation was predictable. Then, investigative reporter Sarah Jennings reached into her bag, pulled out a thick manila envelope, and said 8 words that stopped the nation cold. These documents prove Starmer has serious questions to answer. If you want to stay ahead of breaking political news like this, hit that subscribe button now. We're tracking every development in real time. Time froze. Cameras caught the moment perfectly. Gasps rippled through the studio. The host's face went pale. Panel members leaned forward, eyes locked on the envelope. Jennings placed the documents on the table and began reading. Undisclosed meetings during Starmer's time as Director of Public Prosecutions. Financial interests never declared. Coordination with corporate donors whose businesses directly contradict Labour's public platform. Fossil fuel companies. Private healthcare conglomerates. Defence contractors. The very industries Labour claims to oppose. Line by line, allegation by allegation, the evidence was laid bare for millions watching at home. Here's the devastating part. Starmer built his entire leadership on one promise: transparency. No backroom deals, no dodgy donors. A new kind of politics. Those were his exact words, repeated in speech after speech, interview after interview. Now, those same words are being used as evidence against him. The man who swore to root out cronyism stands accused of practicing it behind closed doors. This isn't just scandal. This is hypocrisy in its purest, most damaging form. The foundation of his leadership, the very thing that made him electable, was crumbling in real time. Within 3 minutes, the internet exploded. Hashtags Starmer leaks and resign now trended instantly across every platform. Clips flooded TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. The envelope moment was shared thousands of times per minute. Politicians on all sides responded immediately. Conservative MP Tom Harrington tweeted, "Labour's moral authority just collapsed live on television. Starmer must go." Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey called for immediate independent investigation. Green Party co-leader Carla Denier demanded full transparency from Labour headquarters. Even within Labour, the cracks showed fast. One shadow cabinet member, speaking anonymously to Sky News, said, "If these allegations are true, if there's even a fraction of truth here, we have no choice. He has to go." Behind closed doors, Labour headquarters descended into chaos. Emergency meetings through the night. Senior aides arriving under heavy media scrutiny, some using side entrances to avoid cameras. Sources inside the building describe shouting matches between factions, some demanding Starmer's immediate resignation, others calling the documents forged, part of a coordinated smear campaign. By morning, the party had no unified response. Press statements contradicted each other. Media surrogates either went silent or delivered wildly different messages. The political machine that once prided itself on discipline and message control was breaking down in real time. Party staffers described an atmosphere of panic, disbelief, and growing anger. Polling data released just hours after the broadcast told the brutal story. Labour support dropped 11 points overnight in key marginal constituencies. Trust in Starmer personally collapsed by 23 points. Among young voters, the demographic Labour desperately needs to win the next election. Confidence fell 31 points. 58% of voters polled now believe he should resign immediately. 70% say Labour has failed to uphold its own ethical standards. These aren't marginal shifts you can spin away. This is electoral collapse. This is the kind of damage that takes years to repair, if it can be repaired at all. Then came the darker revelation that turned scandal into potential cover-up. Multiple sources within Labour's inner circle confirmed that senior members of Starmer's team knew about these documents weeks ago. Internal warnings were raised. Concerned staffers flagged the risk. The leadership chose silence. Strategy meetings were held to discuss potential responses, but no action was taken. If proven true, this transforms the narrative from scandal to deliberate cover-up. And in politics, cover-ups end careers faster than the original offence ever could. It's not the crime, it's the cover-up. History has proven this pattern again and again. Starmer's press conference made everything worse. Standing alone at the podium, visibly tense, he issued a brief 3-minute statement denying the allegations, called them baseless smears. character assassination, political sabotage. He provided no evidence to support his denials, refused all questions from the assembled press corps, then walked off stage. Political analysts across the spectrum were unanimous. This was a masterclass in how not to handle crisis communications. Transparency was promised. Stonewalling was delivered. The man who built his reputation on prosecutorial precision offered nothing but vague dismissals. Public trust, already fragile, shattered completely. Within 48 hours, the internal rebellion grew beyond containment. Constituency Labour parties across the country began passing emergency motions demanding accountability. Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle, traditional Labour strongholds where loyalty runs deep. Trade union leaders, usually cautious during internal party crises, voiced serious concerns publicly. Dave Ward from the Communication Workers Union stated bluntly, "We cannot represent working people while refusing to answer basic questions about our own leadership's conduct." Veteran MPs from safe Labour seats started speaking out, some cautiously, choosing words carefully, others with open frustration and barely concealed anger. Margaret Hodge, never one to mince words, called for an independent inquiry. A Newcastle MP told reporters, "Every day without answers is another day we hand victory to the Conservatives. This ends now, one way or another." By the end of the first week, the conversation in Westminster shifted fundamentally. MPs no longer debated whether Starmer could survive. They discussed who comes next. Names circulated privately in tea rooms and group chats. Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper. Each had strengths, weaknesses, factional support. Alliances were tested quietly over dinners and phone calls. Contingency plans sketched out in hushed tones. Shadow cabinet members began positioning themselves, carefully, subtly. The party that once prided itself on unity and discipline was now consumed by succession planning. Leadership, once unquestioned and secure, was now openly uncertain. The question wasn't if Starmer would go, but when and who would replace him. Voters who initially waited for clarity and explanation grew tired of silence and evasion. Social media sentiment turned from shock and curiosity to cynicism and anger. Comment sections across every platform filled with variations of the same theme. Just tell us the truth. Stop hiding. We deserve answers. Front pages grew harsher with each passing day. The Guardian, traditionally sympathetic to Labour, ran the headline, "Trust, once lost, cannot be recovered." The Telegraph declared, "The end of Starmer's credibility." The Times asked simply, "Can Labour survive this?" Even traditionally supportive outlets questioned his judgment and leadership capacity. Television political panels featured former allies and supporters speaking about his tenure in the past tense, as if his leadership was already over. Labour's grassroots base, the volunteers who knock on doors, the organisers who run phone banks, the local activists who power every campaign, felt deeply betrayed. Regional chairs organised crisis calls. Youth wings across the country expressed outrage and disillusionment. A Yorkshire party leader captured the prevailing mood perfectly. "We were sold a vision of integrity. We believed in change, in doing politics differently. Now we look no different from the people we promised to replace." For many lifelong Labour members, this wasn't just about one scandal or one politician. It represented a fundamental broken promise. The vision they believed in, the change they worked for, felt like a lie. Trust, the currency of political movements, was bankrupt. 2 weeks after the broadcast, Labour stands at a defining crossroads. One path leads to full transparency, complete disclosure, independent investigation led by respected figures outside the party, accountability, regardless of where it leads, and potentially renewal through painful honesty. The other path leads to continued denial, prolonged crisis, bitter internal warfare, electoral collapse, years in opposition, irrelevance. Starmer's choice, or the choice that will be made for him by events spiralling beyond control, will determine not just his personal fate, but Labour's viability as a credible governing alternative for the next decade. This crisis reveals something deeper than one politician's alleged misconduct. It exposes the painful gap between political promises and political reality that has eroded public faith across democracies. Starmer ran explicitly on ending the politics of corruption, cronyism, and backroom deals. Now he stands accused of embodying exactly that. Voters aren't just angry about what may or may not have happened years ago. They're exhausted by the feeling that every politician, regardless of party or promises, eventually disappoints. Breaking that cycle requires more than careful denials and legal language. It requires truth, even when truth is painful and politically damaging. As of now, Starmer remains Labour leader. His name still appears on official letterheads. He still technically commands the party machinery. But his authority is hollow. MPs operate increasingly independently. Major donors question their continued financial support. Activists lose faith and energy. Polls show historic weakness against a Conservative government that should be vulnerable. The machinery of leadership continues to function, but the legitimacy behind it erodes with each passing day. Political observers compare this moment to other watershed crises. Tony Blair after Iraq, Boris Johnson after Partygate. The pattern is depressingly familiar: denial, delay, inevitable reckoning. The only question is timing. Whether Starmer ultimately resigns under pressure or attempts to fight on and rebuild matters less than the damage already inflicted. Trust, once broken in politics, rarely fully repairs. Voters make judgments based not just on accusations and allegations, but on responses and character. His response was silence, evasion, inadequacy. For millions watching this unfold, the verdict is already clear. Leadership isn't just about maintaining power and position. It's about deserving it, earning it daily through action and integrity. And by that measure, many believe Starmer's time is already over. The rest is just formality. This story is far from finished. New developments break daily, sometimes hourly. What do you think Starmer should do? Should he resign immediately, or does he deserve the chance to clear his name? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. And if you want real-time updates on this political earthquake as it continues to unfold, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. This is history happening in real time, democracy under pressure, and you don't want to miss what comes next. I'm watching every twist and turn, and I'll bring you the truth as it emerges. See you in the next one.